because my time is running out. You know, in all fairness, I had this debate and discussion. I'm not just having it with you. I had a debate and discussion on this with your predecessor and others with the same argument and so forth. The American people, the Congress who legislate and enacts the laws, has to have the ability to understand what you're spending, how you're doing it. Predecessor did comply with the law for over 2 years, and you followed this law for 2 months. What happened? Why did the website come down? Why do we not know what is happening? Why are we going back to those days of secret decisions being made by you and whomever else in terms of the spending of the dollars that we constitutionally enact here when we put these bills into law with congressionally directed resources that serve the American people? After an appropriation is enacted, the first thing that happens is before an agency can deliver the promises to the American people is OMB has to make funding available through a legally binding decision known as an apportionment. In essence, you are the first and sometimes biggest bureaucratic hurdle that stands between American taxpayers and the services, support, and protections they have promised in spending laws. And for over 100 years, apportionments were secret. Reiterate, these decisions were effectively laws that you and your also unelected predecessors made whenever you liked without accountability or transparency. I fought on a bipartisan basis, bicameral basis, alongside members of this subcommittee for 4 years to change that. We enacted simple transparency requirements because this committee and the Congress need information to effectively legislate. Independent watchdog organizations deserve the information to help the American public understand how your decisions affect their lives. 3, most importantly, the American taxpayers are entitled to see how you, your predecessors, and every OMB director, how you are spending their money. My question is, you do not think, Director Vought, that Congress deserves to know how you carry out the laws that we enact. You do not believe that American taxpayers deserve to see how you spend their money, do you?
No, I don't think that characterization is true. We do. That's one of the reasons why we come up to the Hill and testify, and we explain our decisions. We believe that apportionments are legally binding, but not final agency actions, and that it is part of a pre-decisional deliberative process on behalf of the executive branch to be able to manage agencies and the programs therein. And what we found in the last 4 years in which the law that you worked hard to put into place that we have constitutional concerns about is that it actually degraded the oversight responsibilities that OMB had, in that we would the people would actually change.
Excuse me, Mr. Director, because my time is running out. You know, in all fairness, I had this debate and discussion. I'm not just having it with you. I had a debate and discussion on this with your predecessor and others with the same argument and so forth. The American people, the Congress who legislate and enacts the laws, has to have the ability to understand what you're spending, how you're doing it, at what intervals, and so forth. And also, let me just say, this requirement, as I say, was debated for 4 years, including with you specifically during your prior tenure as OMB Director. Your predecessor did comply with the law for over 2 years, and you followed this law for 2 months. What happened? Why did the website come down? Why do we not know what is happening? Why are we going back to those days of secret decisions being made by you and whomever else in terms of the spending of the dollars that we constitutionally enact here when we put these bills into law with congressionally directed resources that serve the American people? Tell me what happened. Why did you change what you were doing for 2 months or what your predecessor was doing over the last couple of years?
Well, we had constitutional concerns with the provision. We had a veto threat against this provision in the first term. If it was presented while the president was still in office, I expect you would have had a signing statement that said, not unlike our letter to the committee, not unlike the DOJ's letter to the committee, we have constitutional concerns with it. And it's something that degraded our ability to manage taxpayer resources and do the very
We passed a law, and with all due respect, again, I think the level of your honesty on your claims really shines through on this topic, and there probably isn't much more point in discussing it, but that goes at the very fact you make up constitutional issues, where the Constitution places that power of the purse within this body and within an appropriations committee. Historically, it is there, but you make a decision as to what you want to do, what you think is constitution or not constitution without any basis in fact, thereby pulling down that website that allows us to see what you are doing. We have no way of knowing if you are carrying out what we have lawfully required the executive branch to do. That is our responsibility, and your responsibility is to carry out what it is that we have appropriated here. You just can't pick and choose whatever the hell you want and going forward, it just says. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Chair now recognizes Mrs. Hinson for her 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to our ranking member for holding this hearing today. Director Vought, thank you so much for coming to answer our questions. It says a lot that you're here talking about the efficiencies that you're finding and the improvements you're making at OMB. This is really about taxpayer money and protecting the integrity of where those dollars go. And as you probably know, I've been very, very passionate about improper payments through OMB. We know from the numbers out of GAO that number is somewhere between 230 and 500 some billion dollars. I actually think it's probably higher than that, right? And when we look at the taxpayer money being disrespected in that way, and people for years turning a blind eye to that in terms of fixing this problem. So I appreciate your candor and the effort by this administration to do that through the executive order from the president 14249 to protect America's bank account against waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was proud to support this by introducing legislation here to codify the president's executive order to do exactly that, protecting American taxpayers from wasteful spending. One of the provisions of the order did direct OMB to work with Department of Treasury to establish pre-certification and pre-award procedures across the federal government. This is the breakdown in process that has led to this fraud and improper payments. Can you explain why those procedures were not in place before this executive order?
One of the things in this issue in general, and I'm sure you've been frustrated by it, is the extent to which this is all common sense, and yet it never seems to happen. And I actually posed the question to our team this morning, why did we see nothing before the Trump administration? And honestly, there just wasn't an interest in the previous administration. We're very thankful for the executive order. We're going to be taking our duties very, very seriously. We look forward to working with you on this. I think much of what DOJ has identified is the extent to which the agencies have not been pinging the systems and the data sets that are there and can be there, and then we need to fight through whatever bureaucracies make an institutional argument for why whatever the grant agency is shouldn't be cross-checking it with the data that's available. So it'll be a priority of ours, and we look forward to working with you on it.
Yeah, it certainly is a common sense thing to know where the money's going and what one hand knowing what the other hand is doing in that process. It's absolutely critical. Can you update us on the implementation? You mentioned, obviously you and I share that frustration that it wasn't in place before, and we do look forward to working with you, get you whatever resources you need to be able to implement this. Where do you stand in making some of these fundamental changes to protect
We are
taxpayers?
working on government-wide guidance to agencies to implement the EO right now. We're going through a policy process internally as to what that should include, and we'll be back to you soon with details on that.